Hi friends, myself Nitin Pandit and welcome back in my WPF video tutorial series. And in this video we are just going to take a comparison between WPF and Windows Phone. It's just a short video where we have to only compare my WPF and Windows Forms. Both are offered by Microsoft. Both applications have some kind of similarities, but we have more differences between both of them as UI and you can see in business logic too. So let's start. WPF is a vector graphic based UI presentation layer where Windows Form is not. Why is that important, or you can say interesting? By being vector based, it allows you to presentation layer to smoothly scale your UI element to any size without any distortions, or you can say any disturbance. WPF is also a composable presentation system, which means that pretty much UI element can be made up of any other UI element. This allow you to easily build up complex UI element from a simpler ones. WPF is also allow data binding awareness, and you can say, which means that you can bind any property of your UI element to a .NET object or properties method. A property of another UI element or data. Yes, Windows Forms supports data binding, but in a much more limited way. That means if you have to bind your data grid in Windows Form, so you can use their data source property. But if you want to bind your text box or any other control to binding your databases with your UI controls, so that means you have to use only CLR properties to make a binding between your UI elements and your you can see your data. Finally, WPF is skinnable, themable, which means that a user or a developer can use a list box because of those are behaviors you need, but someone can skin it look like as completely different. So if we have to compare more about Windows Form and WPF, so we have to see my Windows Forms. So we have lots of behavior of Windows, or you can say for desktop applications, but the name as form class, which is exists into system.windows.forms namespace. If you have to design it, then you have to make the UI only in C#, or if you are a VB developer, then in VB. And if you have to write their behavior, you can say the business layer architecture, then you can have only one ways to write your business logic in C# or maybe in Visual Basic. So if we want to design my UI with a different environment and we want to write their behavior into different language, so you can't do that because in Windows Form you have that limitations. You are not able to design your UI separately and you can say your business layer separately. You have to build them at the same time. So that means you have limitations. You can't work together with your designers, then you have to use it, which is a more complex behavior for a developer, because the developer peoples are not so much good in designing, so they people have to be get some kind of limited editions of their controls. They can't skin it, that means they can't change the outlook of their controls. The people only have to be use only those UI, or you can say the outlook of your controls that is provided by user 32 by your system. If you are running your application Windows XP, that gives you environment of Windows XP. If you are running your application of Windows 10, then your application has to be so like a desktop application in Windows. You can't create their design custom, or you can say as skinnable. But in WPF, if we're talking about, so we can create it here window, which is actually exists in system.windows namespace, where you can design your presentation layer in XAML majorly, which is known as XAML, stand as XAML. Also you can write your business logic in those programming languages which you was using earlier in your programming. That means it could be C# or VB. or you can have permissions to write your business logic, or that means there's data binding in XAML also. So that means WPF gives you an environment where you can work with your designers together. You can write their behaviors parallelly when your designer was or will be working on your design. So this is a major advantage of WPF, which is scalable and templates. You can give any other kind of design or templates to your controls. So then your controls will look like same on any other kind of operating system, either you are using Windows 7 or you are using Windows 10, because you have presentation framework, which is a DLL, which is most important DLL in my WPF environment that I was telling you in my previous video. That was the introduction of WPF. If you not seen that video, you must be go and you have to check it out at first. Then you can understand the architecture of WPF completely. So let's have it look on my real-time solutions, what we have in WPF and what we have in Windows Forms. So I have already created a project where I have two projects, Windows Form application and also WPF application. First we have to compare their references. In WPF, or if I'm talking about Windows Form first, we have most important DL, which is system.windows.forms, and second is system.drawing. System.windows.forms, that gives me the behavior of my classes. That means like a form, button, text box, or any other controls. And system.drawing has a responsibility to give their colors, their positions, their height, their size, and everything that represents a design. And if we're talking about WPF, then in WPF we have the most important thing, which is presentation framework and presentation code. To understanding them more, you have to go on the previous video of this tutorial series and you can find out more details about presentation core and presentation framework, and which is again the most important part in WPF, which is Windows base. So these are the new DLLs you must be getting into a WPF solution. So if it create a empty solution in my Visual Studio, like I have a form in Windows Forms, you can open it. This is actually a runtime, you can say this is actually a view of your source code. This file forms1.cs actually designed. This is not any physical file, this is just a output how your code is going to be look like at runtime. So let me show you. Yes, let me show you my designer.cs file, which is actually contains my design source code. You can see here this is a .cs file, so that means we are writing my design code in only CS, which is not easiest to be understand for a designer. So a developer has to be design their applications independently. And if we are talking about their code file, which is, you can see here, right click, view code. This is also a .cs file, so that means we have to write my business logic and my presentation in the same language. Either we are using C# or either we are using Visual Basic. So this is little bit like you can have a can say that complexity for a developer. You can say we have lots of challenges to design applications because we have limited editions of my controls, and you can say their design, we have to use the classical design of my Windows. So if we're talking about WPF application, in WPF application I get a file which is known as main windows.xaml. You can check it out here. If we're talking about the design, so you can see here your design actually written in format of a tree structure, which is just look like as XML. So you can design your any other control in format of XML, so which is just somehow look like as markup language, and your designers are also using this kind of tags in HTML or any other program in web applications design. So it's easy to understand for a designer, so the people can design an application. And if you're talking about the business logic, so you can go there and you can find out the business logic class. Let me, if I'm here, like view code, if I'll go there, so you can see your file in .cs because my project type was C#, that's why. But you can use your Visual Basic if you are a Visual Basic developer. So you can check it out here. Here you have permission to write your business logic in your classical programming languages C# or VB, but if you have to design your application, so you can use XAML pattern to write your design code for your application. So that is a like a separation of my business logic and their UI applications. So you can design them independently and you can use their design into your logic as you want. So this is just most important part of WPF. We can design my custom controls or we can design my any custom windows. So this was the introduction video of, you can say, the difference between Windows Form and WPF. We have lots of things to learn in WPF, so stay tuned with me. Thank you guys. We'll meet soon again for my next video, where we have to make a code for my WPF applications like as Hello World or lots of more things. So stay tuned with me guys. Thank you so much.